Hello and welcome to Pro-Life Primetime News. Today is Friday, June 9th. I'm Leslie Palma.
And I'm Teresa Watson. We're so happy you've joined us tonight. In our top story, we will tell you why it is imperative to vote yes on Issue 1 in Ohio.
Our friend Ann Reed from Operation Rescue will be with us to discuss the horrific emergencies that occur every day at abortion businesses all over the country.
The state of Maryland has secured $1 million in taxpayer funding to pay for its stockpile of 30,000 doses of the deadly abortion drug mifoprestone. Leslie has all the details and much more in Abortion in the News.
Republican voters will face a crowded field of lawmakers hoping for the nomination for president. Teresa will tell you about the new entries and more in Political News in a Nutshell.
Stay to the end when we will introduce you to Priest for Life newest pastoral associate, Father David Beginy.
The Ohio Supreme Court issued a setback to pro-lifers in the state last week. A ballot amendment that could be voted on in the November general election aims to insert a right to abortion in the state constitution and wipe out every other pro-life law enacted in the state. Parental rights, conscience rights, waiting periods, everything would be repealed.
The proposed amendment seeks to protect an individual's right to make their own decisions about all reproductive issues, including contraception, fertility treatment, miscarriage, abortion, and so-called gender reassignment. Cincinnati Right to Life sued on behalf of two pro-life voters, saying abortion should be separate from the other reproductive health care issues. But in a unanimous decision on June 1st, the court ruled the amendment can continue with all the issues combined.
Abortion advocates have been collecting signatures for the November ballot and must have 414,000 by a July 5th deadline. If the court had ruled in favor of pro-lifers, the pro-aborts would have had to throw out all the signatures collected so far and start over. Rachel Seatak, the newly installed president of Cincinnati Right to Life, said the court's decision means pro-lifers in the state must continue to educate voters about the dangers of the proposed amendment, which, if passed, would allow abortions and sex-change surgeries on minors without their parents' consent or knowledge, and would remove all gestational limits on abortion.
The November ballot is the second question voters will face regarding constitutional amendments. Pro-lifers scored a victory when they succeeded in scheduling a special election on August 8th that will ask voters whether the number of votes needed to change the Constitution should be increased from 50% plus one vote to 60%. 43 states in the nation require the 60% threshold. A constitutional amendment also would require signatures from all 88 Ohio counties instead of the current 44-county mandate. Polls have shown the pro-abortion amendment likely could meet the 50% margin, but falls short of 60%. So that August 8th vote is very important.
Protect Women Ohio, a coalition of pro-life groups in the state, is leading the effort to make sure Ohioans vote yes on Issue 1. Here are some important dates to remember. As we said, the special election is August 8th, but early voting begins July 11th. The deadline to register to vote in the special election is July 10th.
For years, our friends at Operation Rescue have been researching and documenting medical emergencies at abortion businesses all over the country to counter the lie that abortion is a safe procedure. Pro-lifers who pray and protest outside killing centers let Operation Rescue know whenever an ambulance is called to transport an injured patient to the hospital. And then staffers of the Wichita-based ministry get the 911 records and listen to recorded conversations between dispatchers and ambulance drivers to find out how women and girls are being hurt at these killing centers. Just over 2 weeks ago, they documented an incident at a Planned Parenthood facility in Flossmoor, Illinois, where a woman under sedation was bleeding so heavily that an ambulance had to be called. Let's listen to the call.
911, what is the city of your emergency?
Hi, we're in Flossmoor.
Okay, what's the address?
19831 Governor's Highway.
19831 Governors, is that Planned Parenthood?
Correct.
And what's going on?
We have a patient post-procedure hemorrhaging.
Okay, how old is the patient?
1987 is the year of her birthday.
Okay. And where's the patient located?
She's currently in a procedure room.
Is she conscious or no? How do you guys
She's under sedation currently.
Okay.
Doctor has inserted a catheter. She has added sutures. She received methadone.
Okay.
Patient is stable. The vitals are stable.
Okay. And what is your name? Okay. May I have a phone number for you, 708-960-0907?
Let me give you my cell number just because
Sure.
we don't have a direct line. So
Okay. And they go to the back, or where do you have them
yes,
go?
they can enter through the back of the building.
Okay. All right. I will get them headed over there, okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
But it's another abortion business in Illinois that Operation Rescue would like to see closed immediately. Hope Clinic in Granite City, which does abortions up to the 28th week of pregnancy. 4 medical emergencies were documented in a 2-month period. Most recently, a 13-year-old girl was rushed to a level 1 trauma center in St. Louis, Missouri, across the Mississippi River and about 8 miles away. Here's that call.
Hi, this is Beth. I'm calling from Hope Clinic. I need to transfer a patient to the to Barnes.
What's wrong there?
I'm sorry.
What is wrong?
She's status post DNC, and she has an anterior perforation.
Okay, do we know the age of the patient?
Yeah, she's 13.
13. Okay. All right, I'll get an ambulance going your way.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.
We've invited Ann Reed, Senior Policy Advisor for Operation Rescue, to talk about the dangers of this facility and others they're keeping track of. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie and Teresa. It's great to be with you.
Thank you, Anne. How did you become aware of the problems at Hope Clinic?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I started with Operation Rescue doing this work about a year ago, and Hope Clinic was actually the very first clinic that I reported on. And at that time, we reported on the 11th medical emergency that had taken place at that facility in less than 2 years. And since then, it has just continued, and the number of medical emergencies have nearly doubled in a little over a year since the new ownership took place.
Wow, that's incredible. So in this case of the 13-year-old girl who was injured, you indicated that this particular call seemed to violate a protocol in terms of the questions the dispatcher usually asks. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. This has been something that we've seen with this particular clinic in the city of Granite City since I've been with Operation Rescue in over a year. Typically what we see are the dispatchers asking the types of questions that need to be asked in order to find out what the vitals of the patients are, what the vitals are, in order that the EMS providers are prepared for what they're facing, when they arrive, and how that patient will need to be treated. For Hope Clinic, when they call into the city of Granite City, it's like they're calling an old pal. Hey, what's going on there? Okay, we'll be there in a few minutes. They don't ask the questions that are necessary in order to provide that information to the EMS providers to be prepared when they arrive there to provide the emergency intervention. I will say, however, that when you listen to those calls, it does sound like the dispatchers in Granite City are getting really tired of getting these calls from this facility and seem to be agitated during these 911 phone calls from the Hope Clinic.
Interesting.
Wow. Well, Julie Burkhart, the owner of Hope Clinic, is kind of a big name in abortion. Can you tell us a bit about her background?
Sure. Now, Julie Burkhart is the primary owner of the Hope Clinic in Granite City, and she became the primary owner last March. She does have a history of being involved with kind of the seediest corners of the abortion industry. She ran a political action committee for the late George Tiller before his death in 2009. And after his death, she tried to keep his clinic and his legacy alive. Most of your viewers are probably familiar with him. He was a late-term abortionist who killed babies at a very late stage and was being investigated at the time of his death for performing illegal late-term abortions. So she has a history of, like I said, being in those dark corners and taking abortion to the nth degree and killing babies at a late stage in their gestational development.
Wow. So we know that Hope Clinic is not the only bad player in the abortion industry. Can you tell us some other businesses you're keeping an eye on?
Sure. One of the clinics that we see a lot of emergencies for is in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That one, we have a lot of emergencies coming in for that one. And more recently, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, it's a Chapel Hill Planned Parenthood, we've seen an increasing number of dangerous hemorrhages. And typically those are what we see, perforations of the uterus, hemorrhages, and many women have died from those types of emergencies. You mentioned the 13-year-old girl, and I think you played the video for that as well. That was an interior hemorrhage. We have documented and reported on many women who have actually died from botched abortions with that type of an emergency situation.
Wow.
Well, Anne, if there are people watching, our viewers, and they may want to collaborate with you, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website, which I think you had on the screen or have on the screen, is operationrescue.org. And if you go to that website, and we keep it on the slider on the top of the screen, we have the instructions for how to get in touch with us, how to document those emergencies. You know, we know about these emergencies because of the passionate pro-lifers who are there on the scene, reaching out to those mothers and fathers and families, offering them hope and avenues to provide for their children. And that is how we become aware of these emergencies. They're there already. They're doing these amazing jobs on the sidewalk, and then they provide us the details, and then we're able to start that investigative process and get as much information as possible to bring that information to the public and hopefully be able to deter some women from actually having abortions at all.
Definitely. Well, Anne, thank you so much for joining us and for letting our viewers know that abortion is not safe. It's unsafe, not only for babies, but for their mothers as well.
Absolutely.
And please keep us posted on the Hope Clinic.
Will do. Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, Anne, for all of your work. We really appreciate it.
God bless. Makes all of us working together.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
For Planned Parenthood, business is booming in New Mexico. The state that has long held the distinction of being a destination for women looking to abort their late-term babies is now ramping up its first trimester services. Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains opened a new clinic in Las Cruces last month and expanded services at its Farmington location to include chemical abortion, available to 11 weeks of pregnancy. In Albuquerque, the nation's #1 abortion seller will open a new expanded killing center in a location so top secret that even the organization's CEO doesn't know where it is, or at least that's what she claims. Some good news in South Bend, Indiana, where the Whole Woman's Health Alliance, or Bortuary, has closed its doors because of a state law passed last August protecting most babies from abortion. Like similar laws in many states, Indiana's has been blocked by a legal challenge. The Indiana Supreme Court heard oral arguments in January but has yet to make a decision, so Whole Woman owner Amy Hagstrom Miller's reason for closing now is not clear. The lucrative chain of abortion mills will continue to kill babies at its centers in Maryland, Minnesota, New Mexico, and Virginia. And don't be surprised if Miller announces that she's opening a new business in abortion-friendly Michigan, just 5 miles away from South Bend. The state of Maryland has secured $1 million in taxpayer funding to pay for its stockpile of 30,000 doses of the deadly abortion drug mifoprestone in case a federal appeals court takes it off the market in the coming weeks. The state's new governor, Democrat Wes Moore, announced in April that he wanted to protect, quote, access to essential health care. So babies will continue to be killed by chemical abortion for up to 3 years in the state, no matter what the ruling is from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals or ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Democrat Governor Phil Murphy says he's willing to go down with the ship over mifoprestone access. This is what the governor said, and I leave it to all of you to discern what he might mean. My premise is you're volitionally killing, impairing the health of, or killing disproportionately Black and brown women if that's where this lands. You have to leave everything on the table. Take me out. Residents of the Garden State are stuck with their governor until the 2025 election. Later this month, the South Carolina Supreme Court will hear arguments in a challenge to the state's brand new heartbeat law, which was blocked by a judge just 24 hours after it was signed by Governor Henry McMaster. The usual suspects, including Planned Parenthood, want to see the law scrapped entirely. Oral arguments are scheduled for June 27th. Speaking again of Planned Parenthood, the abortion giant is suing the state of Kansas to block a new law requiring abortion providers to tell women they can reverse the action of the first drug in a chemical abortion if they change their minds before taking the second drug. Thousands of children are alive today thanks to a progesterone protocol perfected by pro-life physicians. Kansas Republicans passed the abortion pill reversal bill in April, adding it to other items abortionists must discuss with mothers before the procedure. Pro-lifers in Kansas feared that when a constitutional amendment passed last August, removing all impediments to abortion, that the state would become another abortion sanctuary. This lawsuit could represent a first step. And for once, the shoe is on the other foot as a Manhattan abortion business is suing Planned Parenthood, claiming the organization stole one of its abortionists. ParkMed NYC, which has been killing babies and harming their mothers since 1971, is located just 2 miles from a Planned Parenthood of Greater New York Center. The two abortion sellers have an agreement that staff from one place can't take a job at the other until a certain amount of time has passed, but ParkMed says Planned Parenthood is violating that agreement. The lawsuit was filed in October 2022, but just reported this week by the Guardian newspaper. A recent article in The New Yorker quoted several independent abortion centers that say Planned Parenthood has opened abortuaries near them, impacting their businesses. Planned Parenthood playing dirty, who'd have guessed? A new bill introduced in the U.S. House on Monday would recognize unborn children as legal constitutional persons entitled to equal protection. Republican Representatives Doug Lamborn of Colorado and Debbie Lesko of Arizona introduced the Recognizing Life resolution, which has 20 co-sponsors. And finally, a state representative in Maine is promoting a bill that would force hunters in the state to provide a humane burial for coyotes they kill. It's a life, regardless of what sort of value people put on it, Representative Sally Clucci said of the coyote bill. Filed on the same day, she supported a bill that would eliminate all restrictions on abortion. And that's Abortion in the News.
On Tuesday, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie launched his 2024 presidential campaign with a withering attack on the Republican frontrunner Donald Trump, calling him a self-serving mirror hog and faulting other rivals for avoiding direct confrontation. Christie, 60, was an advisor to Trump's successful 2016 White House campaign, but has since become a vocal critic over the former president's claims that the 2020 election was rigged. Previously, Christie said he opposes abortion, but supports exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. But he doesn't support a federal abortion ban, as some Republicans have proposed. He said, "I would not be for the federal government being involved in the issue of abortion in any way. I believe the states should make the decisions." Christie has not fared well in public opinion polling thus far. On Wednesday, former Vice President Mike Pence kicked off his campaign for president, officially beginning an extraordinary competition against his former boss, Donald Trump, more than 2 years after the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol upended their relationship. "Today, our party and our country need a leader that will appeal, as Lincoln said, to the better angels of our nature," Pence said in a video, announcing that touted his work as vice president, but did not mention Trump. "My family and I have been blessed beyond measure with opportunities to serve this nation, and it would be easy to stay on the sidelines. But that's not how I was raised. That's why today, before God and my family, I am announcing I am running for President of the United States." Pence has spent the past several months reminding voters of his long-standing ties to the anti-abortion and evangelical communities. According to the Associated Press, YouTube will stop removing content that claims the 2020 election or other past U.S. presidential elections were marred by widespread fraud, errors, or glitches, the platform announced Friday. The change is a reversal for the Google-owned video service, which said a month after the 2020 election that it would start removing new posts that claimed widespread voter fraud or errors changed the outcome. In Virginia, all 100 House of Delegates and 40 state Senate seats are up for grabs, in addition to many local-level races. Before then, voters will pick who'll be on those general election ballots through Virginia's primary elections, which are already underway after early voting started on May 5th. Virginia residents can vote in person or via absentee ballot, with in-person early voting ending Saturday, June 17th, ahead of the Tuesday, June 20th primary election day. The last day to request an absentee ballot was today. Wisconsin Republicans, still reeling from an April election that saw conservatives lose majority control of the state Supreme Court for the first time in 15 years, hope to use their 2023 state convention this month to unify and refocus on the 2024 presidential race, in which Wisconsin will once again be a battleground. Milwaukee will play host to the first Republican presidential primary debate in August. Republicans will return in the summer of 2024 for their national convention. Democrats, in another nod to the importance of the Midwest, will gather just across the border in Chicago for their national convention in 2024. The theme of the state Republican convention this month, Red to the Roots, speaks directly to the priority of connecting with its grassroots activists, some of whom have broken with party leaders in the Trump era. Democrats, recognizing that 4 of the past 6 presidential elections in the state have been decided by less than a percentage point, are trying not to become overconfident in the face of recent gains. They are gathering for their annual state convention starting June 10th in Green Bay. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is seeking to peel away evangelical Christian support from former President Trump, as the group is set to play a pivotal role in the 2024 Republican primary. The competition for the voting bloc was on full display this week in Iowa, where DeSantis held his campaign launch at Eternity Church in Clive. The Florida governor's moves come as some evangelicals have criticized Trump's stance on abortion. The latest poll results showing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis closing the gap on former President Donald Trump in the early nominating state of Iowa. The survey conducted by WPA Intelligence for the DeSantis supporting Never Back Down Super PAC indicates a neck-and-neck competition between the 44-year-old governor and the 76-year-old former president. In a head-to-head matchup, Trump received 45% support, closely trailed by DeSantis with 43%, while 12% of respondents remained undecided. This marks a significant shift from the early May poll conducted before DeSantis officially entered the race, which showed Trump leading with 53% support, DeSantis at 39%, and 8% undecided. The Florida governor also made significant progress in a broader Iowa survey that included the entire field of candidates. The 45th U.S. president secured 39% support, followed by DeSantis at 29%, Senator Tim Scott, Republican from South Carolina, at 7%, and former ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley at 6%. Former Vice President Mike Pence and tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy each garnered 4% support, while other contenders failed to reach 1%. On Wednesday, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel announced Bank Your Vote, a nationwide campaign focused on maximizing pre-election day voting. Building on our absentee return rate, early in-person voting, and ballot harvesting success in 2022, Republicans must now improve on our overall number of pre-election day voters to ultimately secure victory in 2024. Bank Your Vote will encourage, educate, and activate Republican voters on when, where, and how to lock in their votes as early as possible through in-person early voting, absentee voting, and ballot harvesting where legal. Ronna McDaniel said that to beat Joe Biden and the Democrats in 2024, We must ensure that Republicans bank as many pre-election day votes as possible. The RNC is proud to build on our historic efforts from last cycle and work with the entire Republican ecosystem to reach every state. Banking votes early need to be the focus of every single Republican campaign in the country, and the Republican National Committee will lead the charge. And that's political news in a nutshell.
Father David Beginy has joined our Priests for Life family as a pastoral associate. He was ordained as a priest on May 31st, 2014 for the Society of St. Joseph of the Sacred Heart, also known as the Josephites.
We are honored to have Father Beginy with us tonight. Welcome to the show, Father Beginy.
Well, it's good to be with you, Leslie and Teresa. Nice to join you.
Father Beginy, could you tell us a little about the Josephites and what your mission is with them?
Yeah, so the Josephites, as you said, is the short name for the Society of St. Joseph of the Sacred Heart. And our mission began really in 1871. Our founder was Cardinal Herbert Vaughan, and he responded to the request from some of his religious children, we would say, the order he started, which was called the Mill Hill Fathers, and they asked to continue a mission that he began to take care of the spiritual needs of African American persons. And so in 1893, we were formally founded, and our mission is to evangelize the African American community. And then we do that primarily as pastors of predominantly Black Catholic churches, but we also have a teaching ministry. We have a high school in New Orleans, and so some of our priests teach there. So our mission is to really take care of the spiritual needs of African American persons, especially Catholic persons, and then also to kind of watch out for their and promote their social welfare as well.
Well, you're also pastor of a church in Texas. Can you tell us about the church?
Yes, my church is Holy Family Catholic in Baytown, Texas, and we are an offshoot of St. Martin de Porres Parish, which was is in Barrett Station. Now, Barrett Station was the black part of town back in the days of segregation. It was founded by a free man of color. And at some point, the congregation was growing, and they decided that they needed to form a church in our community, which is called McNair. And so I think that started shortly after World War II. And so I'm the pastor. We're predominantly African American, but we have, as you might imagine, we have with immigration and things, we have a small Filipino contingent, a small Caribbean Black contingent, Caucasian, and so we're kind of growing, and we'll probably become more diverse as time goes on.
And where did you attend seminary, and how did you get involved in pro-life?
Okay. Well, I attended two seminaries. I attended Holy Apostles College and Seminary in Cromwell, Connecticut. And this was a seminary founded for older seminarians kind of after the end of the Korean War. And it was found specifically for guys who had trouble getting into traditional seminaries, because most seminaries back then were for guys just out of high school. And so I attended there for about 2 years. And then when I joined the Josephites, I studied at the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C., and which is a very, very well-known seminary. And it focuses on certainly the theology of St. Thomas Aquinas. And then I stayed at our own seminary, our St. Joseph Seminary, and that's where I lived. And I would commute daily to the Dominican House to study theology and philosophy.
Wow. Well, Father Beginy, thank you so much for taking time and joining us tonight. And we all look forward to working with you here at Priests for Life.
Yep, it's great. It's great to have you as part of the family.
Okay. Did you want to know about my interest in the life issue?
Oh, yes, we
did.
did.
I cut you off?
I think I left that out.
Oh, yes, yes, please. Please.
All right, well, just quickly. So in 1973, 1974, I was a freshman in high school, and Sister Margaret DeSales, who was my English teacher, asked us to write an essay on the Supreme Court decision of Roe v. Wade in 1973. And so I wrote that article and, essay, and then I became very interested in the whole abortion issue. And from that moment on, really, I really developed a love for the unborn child. And from that time on, it was just an interest of mine. And, I promoted it, just in the simple ways through, voting for pro-life candidates and to advocating. And then I became gradually more involved in college and after college.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yes, and so sorry about cutting you off there. And thank you again for joining us, Father. We really
Okay, thanks,
appreciate
Teresa. Thanks, Leslie.
Good night. Thank you so much for joining us on Pro-Life Primetime News, produced at Priests for Life headquarters in Titusville, Florida. We hope you will tune in every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
If you like our show, please support us by making a donation to prolifegift.org. These donations help fund all of our work here at Priests for Life, which enables us to continue educating, equipping, and activating God's people to end abortion. I'm Teresa Watson, Executive Manager.
I'm Leslie Palma, Communications Director. Remember, life is the only choice.